The first thing she noticed was the sound, metal screaming against metal, glass shattering like brittle ice, and then a silence so sudden it felt louder than the crash itself. In that frozen second, as smoke curled into the late afternoon light and a luxury car lay crippled against a concrete divider, she realized her life was about to split into a before and an after. The man slumped inside the wreck, blood at his temple and his breath shallow, was the billionaire who owned her time, her exhaustion, and most of her unspoken fears. And somehow, impossibly, she was the only one close enough to save him. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, in the idea that one brave decision can change the course of many lives, take a moment right now to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this exist because people still choose to care. She had been leaving the office late, as usual, the city already sliding into evening. The building's glass facade reflected a woman she barely recognized anymore, shoulders rounded by years of carrying responsibilities that were never hers to begin with, eyes sharpened by vigilance. She had learned to be invisible in hallways lined with power, to anticipate demands before they were spoken. When the crash happened just outside the private parking exit, her body moved before her mind caught up. She ran toward the twisted metal, ignoring the way fear tightened her chest, ignoring the voice that told her to wait for help. The man inside had once told her efficiency was everything. In that moment, efficiency meant action. The door was jammed, the air thick with the smell of fuel and hot rubber. She braced her feet, pulled with everything she had, and felt something inside her tear as the door gave way. He was heavier than she expected, limp in her arms, his expensive suit torn and stained. She dragged him free, step by step, her breath coming in ragged bursts, the world narrowing to the simple rhythm of lift and move and breathe. Sirens wailed somewhere distant, but she did not wait. She carried him across the pavement, away from the leaking car, away from the sparks that danced too close for comfort. When she finally lowered him to the ground, her arms shaking uncontrollably, she realized her hands were covered in his blood and her own. At the hospital, under harsh lights that stripped away any illusion of glamour, she sat alone while doctors worked to keep him alive. Her phone buzzed with messages she did not open. She stared at the floor and felt the weight of years press down on her. Saving him should have felt like victory, but instead it opened a door she had been keeping shut inside herself. In the stillness of that waiting room, memories surfaced uninvited. Late nights turned into expectations, boundaries blurred under the excuse of ambition, moments where power had been wielded casually, carelessly, leaving her smaller each time. She had survived by swallowing discomfort, by telling herself it was the price of proximity to success. Watching him fight for breath behind closed doors, she understood with painful clarity that survival was not the same as living. When he stabilized, gratitude followed swiftly, wrapped in public praise and private assurances. News outlets painted her as a hero, the loyal assistant who had saved a titan of industry. Flowers arrived. Promises were made. Yet beneath the applause, something had shifted. The image of him unconscious in her arms had stripped him of his invincibility. Power, she realized, was not permanent. And courage, once discovered, does not easily retreat. That night, unable to sleep, she sat at her kitchen table with the city humming beyond her window and finally allowed herself to revisit the moments she had filed away as inconveniences. The pressure that had crossed lines. The silence she had been forced into by contracts and unspoken threats. The way her career had advanced while her dignity quietly eroded. She had told herself that endurance was strength. Now she saw that endurance without justice was just another form of captivity. By morning, her hands were steady. She gathered what she had never dared to collect before, emails saved but never sent, dates and times written in notebooks, recordings backed up in places she hoped she would never need. Each piece felt like lifting a stone from her chest. She walked into a police station with the same resolve she had found at the crash site, her heart pounding but her steps sure. The officer listened, then asked questions, then called in others. As the story took shape outside her head, she felt the terrifying relief of being believed. The arrest came quietly. There were no cameras, no speeches. Just the soft click of handcuffs and the sudden reversal of roles. The man who had once dictated her hours and her worth sat stunned, his world collapsing in on itself. She did not feel triumph. She felt grief for the years lost, and something gentler beneath it, a fragile sense of freedom. Justice, she learned, was not loud. It was firm. The days that followed were heavy. Public opinion swung wildly, as it always does when power is challenged. Support mingled with doubt, praise with cruelty. She lost her job, her routine, the identity she had worn like armor. There were moments she questioned everything, moments when fear clawed at her resolve. But there were also messages from strangers who said her courage had given them language for their own pain. There were mornings when the sun felt warmer simply because she no longer dreaded the day ahead. In time, the city returned to its rhythm, and so did she. She found work that valued her skill without demanding her silence. She learned to inhabit her body again, to trust her instincts, to rest without guilt. The crash that had nearly ended one life had, in a quieter way, begun another. She understood now that carrying someone to safety did not obligate her to carry their secrets too. If this story is touching something inside you, if it reminds you that bravery can be both fierce and tender, please take a moment near the end to like the video, share it, and subscribe. Your engagement helps stories of truth and resilience reach the people who need them most. As the case moved forward, she prepared to speak, not as a symbol, but as herself. She knew the road ahead would be long, that healing was not a straight line. Yet she felt grounded by the knowledge that she had acted in alignment with her values when it mattered most. Kindness had led her to save a life. Integrity had led her to reclaim her own. Before this story ends, I ask you to do one special thing. Leave a comment below, not just a word, but a thought, a feeling, or a message to someone who might be afraid to choose themselves. Your voice could be the encouragement they are waiting for. In the end, she did not see herself as a hero or a victim. She was simply a woman who refused to look away, from danger on the road or injustice in her life. She had learned that compassion and accountability are not opposites, but partners. And as she walked forward into a future she was finally free to define, she carried with her the quiet certainty that doing the right thing, even when it costs everything, can give you back what matters most.